G'day guys, my name's Paul and I'm with Norsk Prepper. Today I just want to give you guys an update as to what I've been up to the last couple of weeks. I know it's been a little bit quiet. We've been travelling around Norway and visiting lots of different people and just building our network. And it's been really encouraging to see the number of people who have been preparing and who have been taking current world events very seriously and have been looking at ways that they can become more self-sufficient and more independent. So it's really encouraged me because a lot of times I'm working with this subject and I'm working with people, and a lot of times I'm talking to people who are just happy-go-lucky and they're saying, well, if things go bad, we'll just do our best. And that's not a very good strategy for a successful future, but very, very fortunately, we've been meeting lots of people who have been taking this very seriously. Now, before I proceed, I would just like to encourage you to click the subscribe button and to like this video and leave us a comment. YouTube is active in hiding these types of videos, and they really don't want people to find this sort of information. I received a message from a friend who informed me that she has been notified that YouTube is also going to be very active in down prioritizing the ability for people to find these videos. So just leave us a like, subscribe if you haven't, hit the notification bell, and then you won't miss these videos. Today I just want to go into some detail about some prioritizations. If you haven't already considered these items, that you really should think about this fairly urgently. What we're seeing in China at the moment, between China and Taiwan, is going to have an impact on logistics. It was already pretty tough before with all the COVID nonsense. Now we're going to run into more problems again, simply because of all these military exercises. We're looking at unrest in Serbia and Croatia at the moment as well, and this is giving NATO an opportunity to get into the Balkans again. So we're seeing that there's civil unrest all over the world. So this will of course be used as an excuse and a pretext to limit energy, because of course the NATO countries and Russia are at loggerheads at the moment because they're supplying weapons to Ukraine, and of course Russia doesn't want to supply cheap gas to the NATO countries. So this is going to have an impact, and even for us in Norway, where we have access to very cheap energy, we're being completely gouged by the energy companies and of course the politicians that are in the energy companies' pockets. So we're having a really tough time at the moment in Norway to try to have access to cheap electricity. So that leads me on to the main thrust of this video. Guys, if you don't have a means for energy production at the moment, you really need to look into that now, whether it be a solar panel to charge up your electronic devices, or whether you have a generator that you turn on twice a week or 3 times a week to charge up your battery banks and to charge all your electronic devices for your communications. You need to get on this straight away. So what is it that I would recommend? I would recommend having a mix of various means of producing energy. Solar panels are always useful because they make no noise. A petrol and diesel generator, these are very handy because they generate large amounts of power and they take a very small footprint. However, if it's a diesel generator, these produce a lot more noise and can attract attention. Now for us in Norway, it's a friendly country. I'm not expecting roving bands of bandits coming and taking everything that I have. We have a fairly good neighborhood here and we're out in the country, so it's likely that I'll be producing more power than I can use. So we'd be setting up a trade with our neighbors to trade power for whatever else that maybe they might have that we need. Now, for those of you living in the city, you need to figure out a way that you can charge up your batteries. So, and in my humble opinion, I think a small petrol generator would be ideal, and a battery bank, and then some small solar panels as well, so you can make use of the sun. Now bear in mind, if you're going to use a petrol or a diesel generator, you're going to need fuel. If you're going to buy fuel, you should run a stabilizer in that fuel. So any fuel sitting in a fuel tank for a while is going to go bad over time. Diesel, you'll get algae buildup, and petrol will just decompose over time. So if you have a petrol generator, you want to get 98 octane and you want to add a fuel stabilizer to that to keep it fresh as long as possible. If you're in a small apartment or if you're renting, don't go getting yourself a 200 or 400 litre barrel. which is going to be very difficult for you to transport. You're better off getting smaller jerry cans, which you can load into the car, because the fuel, if you have to bug out, will end up being very, very valuable. So you need something that's easy to transport. This is the same thing if you're running a diesel generator. Because of the logistic challenges that I mentioned, and because of all the unrest that we're seeing around the world, generators have parts that wear. So if you're mechanically inclined and you have the ability to repair your generator if something happens, you should also have the spare parts necessary ahead of time. So things like valves, things like your seals and O-rings, any kind of gaskets, fuel filters, any oil, if you need to do oil changes as well, you should have these spare items on hand before you actually need them. Otherwise, there may be a chance that you will not have the things that you need. So what about warmth in the house? Because this is one thing that we're using power for at the moment. My recommendation is that you have an alternative means for cooking. So whether it be a paraffin stove, a petrol stove, it could be a gas stove, or an alcohol stove. Make sure that you have an alternative means for cooking and boiling your water and heating it up. Why is this important? Because if we face brownouts, which is looking very likely in Norway, it's going to be necessary for us to be able to cook without electricity. Because a stove, your average stove is going to use about 2,000 watts of power, and if you have a brownout, that'll be one of the first things that will end up having your power cut off. So make sure you have an alternative means for doing the cooking. You need to consider how to boil water and how to store hot water for long periods of time without it losing its heat. Buy yourselves a big thermos and boil your water early in the day and then store it. And then at the end of the day, in winter, get yourself a hot water bottle and fill it up with the hot water that you had from the start of the day and put that in your bed to warm it up, and that will save you on power. You can get very large thermoses now, and you can get large food thermoses. So you can put your spaghetti and your noodles and your soup in this thermos. You can pour your hot water in and put the lid on, and it will cook over time, and it will not require power if you need to cook that way. Anyway guys, this is just a short video. I encourage you to keep going, keep your preps up, keep building out your network. Remember, don't be scared, be prepared. All right guys, good luck, and until the next video. This is Paul from Norsk Prepper. See you all later.